Welcome to Vermontitude, a collaborative effort between Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, and BCTV to bring you the stories behind the stories on the topics you want to learn more about. Because there's always more, so there'll always be Vermontitude. Hosted by me, Peter Fish Case. Welcome to Vermontitude. New episodes drop every Tuesday and can be found by going to vermontitude.com, reformer.com, or BCTV. We come to you from the studios at the Innovation Box on Flat Street. I'm Peter Fish Case, and each week I cover the topics that are of concern to Windham County and the towns that reside within its borders. Today we're talking with Reformer reporters Bob Audette and Chris Mays. Let's get started. Bob, you did a report about the Oak Street drug bust. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, Oak Street, that house has been a problem for years.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it has a rotating cast, absentee landlord, rotating cast of people who come through and basically sell drugs, allegedly. Yeah. Sell drugs out of that apartment or both of the apartments. I think it's a 2-apartment building. And there was a couple that was busted, probably users. They're just basically tools.
Yep.
And selling fentanyl and opiates or whatever they're selling just to get their own fix. And they were arraigned for fentanyl distribution. The woman was actually in court on Friday because she had an extradition out in New Hampshire, and they basically shipped her off to New Hampshire for violation of conditions, probably for getting arrested in Brattleboro for selling fentanyl.
Okay. Now this is the same. This is the same house that was in the news a year or two ago?
Yes.
Was that like more towards more of a COVID time, yeah?
I think that house actually had a health order against it for a while, and a bunch of people got kicked out because they came through and said there was just issues with the house, and the landlord had to fix it up, I guess, in my opinion, to get more drug dealers back in it. He had to fix it up. That's who he runs to. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Now, did this take a long time for this to come to? Do you know the details of
Sometimes it could take months for a case to resolve. This one, I think, only took a couple of weeks.
All right.
I think that the neighbors in that neighborhood have just been on fire about drug dealing around there, and I think that once people started complaining about it, cops said, well, this is easy enough.
Right. So. All right, Chris, let's cut to you and let's talk about you covered quite a bit of the town meeting stuff that was going on and the votes on the 7th. What are some of the highlights from that?
Yeah, I bounced around all day. I started in Dover, where they were giving sizable raises to their employees to keep them around, to stay competitive, basically. Then I ran over to Halifax and stayed there for a little while. They ended up skipping over a vote on a rooms tax. The people said they didn't really have enough information. The select board member wasn't there yet. He's also a state legislator, so he was bouncing around to meetings too.
Okay.
Then when he did come, he gave 2 resolutions passed by the legislature to 2 longtime public servants, Lewis Sumner and Wayne Corser. Wayne was a fire chief in town for decades, and Lewis was a select board member for almost 60 years.
60?
There was a small hiatus in the early 2000s.
Well, yeah, a man has to have a vacation. And 60 years.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how old he is, but he's getting up there, and he's been hospitalized recently just because he got COVID, and he's just getting older. And his wife also was recognized. She was the town clerk for a long time. So
oh, wow.
It was a big day for them, and it was really nice to see them recognized. I've been talking to them since I've been at the Reformer.
Nice. Yeah, it's always good. It's always good when folks like that who have committed their, some service, mainly volunteer, to a town, get a little recognition.
Yeah, it's amazing, the institutional knowledge. I talked to Lewis afterwards, and I said, "So you're done?" And he said, "Well, I'm sure they'll call me, for questions."
Yeah, he kind of knows where all the bones are buried. I have a feeling after serving that long of a term.
Yeah.
So let's move down to Patrick Devins. You wrote an article about this gentleman, Bob, and he basically said that getting arrested saved his life.
Yeah, about 2 years ago, he got busted. Not with a lot of fentanyl, maybe 26 or 27 doses, but that's enough for a felony and to be listed as distribution. And since he got busted, he spent some time in jail, but he's been in halfway houses. He thanked people for arresting him, and that he said they saved his life. But he's done a lot for himself as well.
Okay.
He was in a halfway house for a long time, became a house manager. Now he's working for a friend and staying clean.
All right. That's what we can hope for, right? I mean, that's what the system is designed to do, and hopefully it works out for him this time.
It's very rare for this sort of realization for a person to happen. I mean, we have people who die every day because they can't get clean.
Right. Yeah.
So we have to give this guy credit for, getting a wake-up call and listening to it.
Yeah. Well, here at Vermontitude, we can't. We wish him nothing but the best. Let's jump over to municipal EMS. Chris, you did a story on this. What's the path forward? Can you give us some highlights of that?
Sure, yeah. The firefighters union here in Brattleboro came out with a statement in support of municipal ambulance. They say it's the best for the citizens of Brattleboro. And they're basically just weighing in as the select board and town staff look at what they're going to do long term.
Right. Any word from rescue? Has rescue weighed in on this conversation at all?
So far, not in the public meetings. No. So we'll see. Yeah.
Now, part of your article mentions that the union declined to answer questions. Can you give us some highlights of some of the questions you might have asked?
Yeah, I asked what they might recommend in terms of, do they want to have a partner like they do now with Golden Cross, and just questions about how to. A part of their statement also called for more staffing, which a recent report says they need. And I asked if they have any proposals for how they might add staff incrementally, or just, take their time with it. And they said they didn't really have anything to offer at this time, that they wanted the statement to stand as it was.
Okay, so they're just not willing to go into the nitty gritty, understandably, to a degree. I mean, that those are big questions.
Yeah, I really hope that they make their voices heard when the select board discusses this.
Yeah. So we'll find out. Bob, Vermont Bread, go. What's going on there?
Well, what's it been, 2 years since they closed?
Yep.
And they didn't get any notice. I mean, AIAC, American Industrial Acquisition Corporation, refuses to admit that they even owned any of the three bakeries, Coffee Cup, Vermont Bread, and Superior in Connecticut. But they were supposed to help with money and credit facilities, but 27 days after the acquisition, they closed the place, no warning. A few days later, some employees here in Brattleboro sued them for violating the Federal WARN Act, which basically says you have to give your employees 60 days notice and get them ready, So this has been going through courts for a while now, and the founder of AIAC, Leonard Levy, who has a little bit of a tarnished past. If you Google him, you'll see some of the stuff he did in England, which hurt a lot of people. But I find it hard to get into that because it's very confusing when you start talking about vulture capitalists.
And by vulture capitalists, you mean venture capitalists?
I mean,
I know. I just want to clarify for people that if they don't understand that a venture capitalist is often called a vulture capitalist. That's all.
Well, I think there's maybe a little difference because some venture capitalists actually do good.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Leonard Levy is totally a bad guy. He did rescue two companies in Vermont, two aerospace companies, which he takes credit for. And the guy, I would think, is pretty savvy. He's been in the industry for a while. He's made millions of dollars. But the folks that are suing have been trying to get him on record to do a deposition for more than a year, and he keeps always coming up with excuses. And they finally get him in court to do a deposition, and they're probably 15 minutes into the deposition, they had to call the judge and say he won't answer questions. And the judge is like, you need to answer these questions. And Levy's like, well, they're asking me questions like the color of the furniture in my office and how many windows are in my office and questions like that. And the judge is like, if all those questions are irrelevant, it won't matter in the end. You have no right questioning their questions. Your attorney can ask any questions.
Right.
They can ask any questions.
It's an interesting process, I find. And I think, if I were to guess the psychological game for asking what color your office furniture is, there probably is one. Don't know what it is, but there probably is one.
But like the judge said, you don't have any right. And if you refuse to answer questions, I'm going to hold you in contempt. He said, this is why I wanted the deposition in Burlington, because you've been hard to contact. You've been fighting this deposition. And he's like, look, I had nothing to do with ownership of the 3 companies. And the judge said, that's what the deposition's about, to find out who actually owned the company, who made the decision. Well, I didn't make the decision. Well, then answer the questions in the deposition. And he is going on and on about it. He was accusing the attorneys of being out-of-staters who are looking to make money, and talking about how much money he gives to charity and how many businesses he saved and how he's the only Vermonter in the room who pays taxes. And the judge is like, I don't want to hear it, Mr. Levy. You need to go in that room and answer these questions or I'm going to hold you in contempt.
Wow. Okay. So this thing's turning very contentious. It was.
Oh, it's been contentious.
Yeah, I was going to say it's always been contentious. Now that original 60-day notice lawsuit thing, did that ever pan out? I don't recall.
That's what this is all about.
Oh, so we're still fighting that battle.
Yes.
Oh.
And this is why it's taken so long, because the attorneys for the plaintiffs are like, we're trying to get him on a deposition. We're trying to get documents. He's been fighting it every which way. They were like, we've got 13 documents from him. We asked for more documents. He sent us the same 13, stuff. And he's acting like an idiot. He's acting like he actually told the judge, I don't understand what's going on here. This guy's made millions of dollars rescuing failed companies. He doesn't know what's going on in a federal court. It just seems disingenuous, in my opinion.
In your opinion.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Well, Guy, is there anything big on the horizon that we can look forward to popping up in the Reformer that you're working on?
Yes, a local artist, Jonas Frick, he died unexpectedly, and I'm following up and talking to friends and people who knew him. So it's been pretty interesting. So
we'll be looking forward to that write-up, knowing more about Jonas Frick. Bob, anything?
Brattleboro Police Department has a 20-hour-a-week social worker that's being paid for the next year by HCRS.
Okay.
Knowles Wentworth, you might know him.
I've heard the name, yeah.
And he's been around for about 20 years doing social services work, so he's really excited. He's going to be doing ride-alongs and helping the police get people set up with services rather than dumping it all in the laps of the police. Not that the police don't like to do it. The police have a lot to do in this town and being understaffed. So having someone on staff 20 hours a week is going to really help out a lot. That's supposed to be announced today or tomorrow, so I might have let the cat out of the bag. I did interview Knowles on Friday.
All right. So, no, that's okay. That's why we do this on Monday. So if
there's supposed to be a press release today or tomorrow.
All right. So but we can look forward to that. All right.
Yes,
that's what Vermontitude's all about. Getting the information,
breaking
the news. All right. So hey, listen, guys, I want to thank Bob Audette for being on the program, Chris Mays, and Hold Up Lemon. Lemon has been sitting patiently waiting for this interview to be done. Thanks, guys, for coming in.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us.